General German Products, video training, EJ series pumps. So what we're going to talk a little bit here about is maintenance. Okay, so maintenance on a metering pump. Basically every once in a while, just because you got a really harsh environment here, you got pumping directly attached to chemicals, you've got things like that, you do have to maintain these. Now spare parts kits, $40, $50, minimum, does help the pump rejuvenate. Those are your wear items too, not really part of warranty, but replaceable. Make the pump perform much better, back to factory specs. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to pull one apart. Okay, really quickly. The first thing I like to do, especially when I get a pump in for repair, I know that I've always told people you make sure that it's cleared out. The reason being is that when you plug a pump in, if it's left in the on position, this thing comes right on and starts pulsing. You don't want to have chemicals in there when the repair technician does it. I never plug a pump in first. The first thing that I always do would be remove all the things, remove the pump head. Now the factory may not like seeing me do this, but because you can't over tighten and under tighten the pump, especially with a drill head like that. I do take precautions with mine, and I have it set so that it's basically it doesn't over tighten it for me. I turned it all the way down to 1 just so it won't do that on me. A lot of guys will do that with it and over tighten and break the pump head, and that's not that hard. It's just a piece of plastic. Okay, so I've unloosened them basically. I'll pop the thing out there. You'll see that some of the chemical does come out. Make sure that I have my gloves on and everything like that. And I do make sure this one I know is only water, so it's really not going to hurt it. There are arrows and indicators on the pump head, so you don't want to do those. You want to make sure that your diaphragm is okay, that you see it roughly about this color. When it delaminates, because this white face is glued to a rubber back or an EPDM backing. When it delaminates or it comes unglued, you'll notice white. It's these white air bubbles in behind there. And what's happening is the pump is moving the rubber EPDM diaphragm in the back, but this part's not. Air and water, okay, 2 different molecules. So you're moving the diaphragm, but this here just stays so the pump won't prime. Okay, so grabbing both sides of it, you'll notice that sometimes it does help. Okay, came right off. And you'll notice that there is, I'll get it all the way off of there just so you can see, there is a little like plastic spacer washer, and flexing it like this, not going to hurt it. Okay, not going to hurt it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. May want to do the same thing. Okay, it done, replaced. Okay, you'll notice there's a little ring in there too that's on there, and that's coming from the pump, and there's a sealing surface that's on there. You want to check that. You want to make sure that there's no problems with that sealing thing. Maybe there's some gouges in it that'll cause problems with the head. You want to put it back in place. Remember that I have taken special care with mine. The first one I don't. I slow mine way down. You hear it click, and I've set my to pop off when it's done. Okay, automatically does it. I've set that one, and nobody touches my drills. Okay, so now the next thing we want to check is we want to check those things. Remember, this is reverse thread, so you hold the union, spin it backwards. It's the only part of the pump that is reverse threads. We want to make sure that everything has got seals inside of here, which I'm going to pull these apart. I'm going to show you. Coupling. This is the tubing clamp. This is basically just in there to hold the water in the pump as they ship it. This piece. But then you'll notice this piece comes out and there's a little O-ring on there. I want to make sure that's clean, nice clean surface. reassemble it. Make sure you put your tubing clamp back in there. I'm going to put this back in because it's going to go back to stock. One of you lucky guys are going to get that one. No, it'll be fine. Tighten it down, just make sure I don't lose it. Same thing that's on the air discharge side. This is nothing different about it, but they just don't put this in. This holds in the liquid. There's no liquid coming off this side. You see, there's a clamp ring, tubing clamp, nut, and the O-ring. Okay? Put it back together. Now, in this valve up here, there are also O-rings. So I'm going to open that up and I'm going to show you guys where those are. Here I'm just unloosening and loosening it. It'll eventually come off of there. There you go. This one here is the seal down the thing when you have it open. Basically, you have it open, you have liquid coming through there. There's a little O-ring right here on the end, which you can get off with like a razor blade or X-Acto knife. That one there is the one that creates the seal when it's closed. This one here keeps the liquid from coming out the top. It should go out the side here, but it kind of does keep it from moving out of there. You want to make sure both of those are clean and clear. They do come in the parts kit, so replace them if they give them to you. Next thing there is O-ring right here. Seals off this valve body at the union. You want to make sure that that's nice and clean. This will be regular thread, so I'm going to loosen it that way. Union, you want to make sure you leave it in there. There's a little like white Teflon washer, which they give you more Teflon washers, but you notice that thing never wants to come out of there. So, now, remember I told you gravity. Okay, so there is a direction that these valves want to go in. This one's VC, so you'll notice that there's a white dot on it that's telling me that this is Phyton seals. I believe that the poly or the EPDM seals, which are also black, look exactly the same, they have a yellow dot on them. So, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab, I know I have one on here. I have a paper clip or a wire. Here's a wire. I'm going to grab a wire really fast because I want to show you guys how they come apart. But basically, seal, you see the ball inside of there, and then housing. You don't want to have this thing, I just pushed it out of there, okay? So you can see how small that ball is. That thing is tiny. If you do this in the control room, you do it anything other than my bench on my, you're going to lose that little thing. Okay, but you want to make sure they're nice and clean. If you don't have one, you can see that there's a bevel on the seat. Make sure that that's nice and clean. That's where the sealing surface is for the ceramic ball. And you know that there is two different ways that it goes in. You can see that the bottom or the outside edge is got a little step on it versus the other piece there. So just opened it. I'm going to plop it back in there. Okay, and that is always the bottom. That is always the top. So whether I'm on this side or if I am on this side, I want to make sure that this part is always facing down. If you put those in upside down, especially on the black one. The black one's really hard, the Poly Pro version of it. It's really hard to tell the difference because even this cartridge is black and then the seal is black. And then when you look at it, you can't see the ball, you can't see nothing. Very, very difficult to see it. But you can see that there's a hole. You'll see that there's a little step in there. You make sure that's the way it goes. These are really always kind of tricky to get out of there. We're going to try and get one out of there. Okay, they'll always go like that. Now there's an O-ring that's inside of here. You want to make sure that that is. Over time this does kind of flatten out and elongate, so you do want to make sure and replace those when you get a chance. And that's really all the sealing mechanisms that are on the top of this pump. So I'm going to put that back in. I'm going to put both of those back in upside right. Now put the housing with that white shim in there because you never get that darn thing out. You may have to blow that thing out of there if you want to get your compressed air or something like that. Hand tight. If it doesn't, if it leaks or you're having a leak, replace the seal. These are straight threads. All of these are straight threads. Adding Teflon tape to it is just going to ruin the valve. Okay, it doesn't help it seal. I'll take that back. It will make it seal. You've just ruined everything. You'll have to replace it. So if it's leaking, get a new O-ring. If it's leaking somewhere in here, the O-ring has gone bad, not the seals, the threads. The threads are not MPT threads. Okay, so I'm going to kind of lay this pump on its side so I can also show you the bottom side. Same kind of configuration. They do put this on here. I'm going to take my little, and it really shouldn't be on too tight, but plastic attached to plastic sits over time, and it does, you know, it does like kind of stick itself. It's really hard to get it to break free. Go ahead and unplug that, and maybe these will come out with it. And there's that little, and you can see the O-ring that was on the top there that we wanted to inspect on the other one. If I spin it around, usually it comes off of there, like so. Okay, so do have that. Make sure that's okay. I'm going to stuff that back in there. There's that little Teflon seal. Okay, and it's really a spacer. There's variances when you inject your mold PVCs that shrinks over things. So this is really just a shim to help hold it in there, hold it properly. And you can see that as I'm taking these out, they were both in there just like that. This is the bottom of the pump. Okay, so these are in this way on this side, the other way on the top side. Okay, no other seals in there. I'm gonna drop those two in, make sure they're clean, make sure all that stuff. And go ahead and put that back. Oop. Almost forgot my white shim. I kind of do want to make sure this goes in the right place. That shim moves. So that's really kind of the best way to do it, is to actually do it upside down. Hand tight, it's an O-ring. The O-ring is the seal. You'll notice that this has that. There's also foot valve and injectors in these, and you also do want to make sure that the seals are proper on these. Now, this is a foot valve. It's down inside the chemical. It really is a little bit different configuration. Doesn't need all of those fancy O-rings and stuff like that. If it leaks around it, it's already in the chemical. What the heck? And it's really not going to do anything. Now there's only one check in the foot valves, and then what they do is they put the spacer in there. Okay, so the spacer's in there. You got a little check valve just like you had inside the pump. Same kind of configuration, white dot Viton, ceramic ball seals, and you have the O-ring that's in there that's inside the pump head. Basically the same thing. And you have a little screen down here at the bottom. Make sure you don't, you might want to clean out the screen. Make sure that this is in, make sure it's in properly. This is the down. Put your shim back on there. Spacer. Valve hosel. Okay, cleaned everything out. Should help it prime. Definitely help it prime. Okay, put your tubing back on. Doesn't have that same couping lock. It doesn't really matter as much. Here is the new injectors that they have. I'm going to open that up. Tubing, nut, coupling. See that you have the same kind of fitting that was on the top of it. This one here is a little bit more interesting though. Wow. So they're talking about the PVC getting stuck together. Okay, and now for the injector. Wow, that thing was really, I'll finish up on that injector here. That thing was really on there. And again, it's the plastic sitting to the plastic. It's not that it's over tightening, that it's tightened hand tight, but it sits over time. And the two plastics kind of, they're oil based. So they kind of create this little lock between the two of them. So I did crack it open finally. Jeez, I had to get my He-Man strength out of there. But this one here, you'll notice is a really different fitting. And O-ring seal, make sure that O-ring is okay, which seats on this housing here. You can see that there's this spacer kind of plug, and it goes right inside the top of the injector here. Spring loaded. Add some back pressure to the pump. That's what it uses that piece for. But then you'll notice, I'm going to push this out of here, see if I can get that to come out. There it goes. It's a cone-shaped seal. No check ball in the injector. And this, when I first started with the Walchem, I thought, I'm not really care for it. But now that I've worked with them much better, it works a lot better, because this allows the injector do you put it in any orientation. You can light it on its side, you can put it upside down, you can do whatever you want, because the cone will always find the V-shaped cone that's on the inside of this. It's always going to direct itself to seal. Now this is the reverse part of that. That's really the only sealing surface. It's this really small O-ring. So you just got to make sure that O-ring's good, and that this cone, the reverse part of the cone in here, is nice and clean, and you'll get a seal. No matter if this thing's laying on its side, if it's upside down, if it's right side up, it doesn't really matter. This cone should always get directed right into the center of that piece right there. So I do like it. You got to make sure it's clean. You may want to take it apart, clean it every once in a while. We do offer a corporation stop. The corporation stops allow you to take these out of service without shutting down the line. So kind of depends on your application. You may want to look for corporation stops to help with those kind of things if you need it. And I'm just putting it back together, putting the seams, putting everything. That's it. That's how all three, or all the components of the sealing components, come apart and go back together. That's how you maintain a pump. Now it's ready for service.